Now watch me clean out my fish tank in under 10 minutes. You'll see that I'm very speedy. What I'm doing first is just removing all the overgrown Java moss, and I'm carefully trying to make sure there's no babies in the Java moss, because one of the beautiful things about Java moss is that the babies get in amongst it and it acts like a nursery. So therefore it severely increases the survivability of any baby fish that you might have. So next I made the big fatal mistake of removing a plant before I took the fish out. Now this is highly risky activity for several reasons. One is because the substrate can have hydrogen sulfide in it if there's not enough roots in the substrate. If there's a lot of roots in the substrate, that wouldn't be a problem, but it also completely cloudies the tank, which is what you saw there. So then I just waited a bit for the filters to clear it. Whenever you do anything silly like removing plants when you've got mud in the tank, then you do need to make sure that you're cleaning your filters regularly after you do this sort of service. Otherwise your filters will clog up. Now the next thing that I'm doing is removing any fish out of the aquarium. So I've just drained a little bit of water from the aquarium and put it into the bucket, and now I'm proceeding to try and catch all the fish. Because of the Java moss, there are lots of little babies in there that I've had to be careful to catch. Now there's the mother Crebensis, and she got completely bashed by the Pakistani loach and by the male Crebensis, because when I first got that, it was a big female Crebensis. She beat up the original male, and then I got a second male, and then he got beaten up by her as well, and then he did grow, and then he ended up beating up her back, and the Pakistani loach did join in as well. And the Pakistani loach did end up being quite aggressive in the end. So it is really important that you keep an eye on any fish that you've got. And even if the fish are not meant to be aggressive, that doesn't mean much, because sometimes you can get highly aggressive fish that are not aggressive. And then other times you can get fish that shouldn't be aggressive, and then you find they're very aggressive. So you never want to assume. You want to just pay attention to your actual aquarium and pay attention to what your tank's doing. The other thing you often find that you need to do is you need to watch the tank while the fish are not present to you being there, because quite often if you're right in front of the aquarium, you'll find that the fish will behave differently. So sometimes they're trying to attract your attention to get food, and it is common that they'll be less aggressive and more distracted when you're in front of the tank. So now what I'm doing is going and pulling all of the plants out of the aquarium and removing the rocks. Now one of the reasons why I've decided to change this tank is because I had grand plans of producing a proper plant tank, but I never ended up getting good enough lights, and I never ended up getting CO2. So the high nutrients from mud substrate just wasn't justified. So if you want a low maintenance aquarium, then you're better off not going for this mud substrate. If you want a really good planted aquarium and you've got CO2 and you've got good lighting, then this mud substrate is fabulous. But it is high nutrient, so you need to bear that in mind. The other thing is it's really not versatile. So if you want to do something like rearrange your plants or whatever, your tank does turn into a bit of a chocolate milkshake. And once again, there is a risk of hydrogen sulfide. Generally with mud, hydrogen sulfide is not actually a problem. It's more of a gravel or coral sand problem. Particularly if there's plant roots through the substrate. So now I'm just going and scooping out the bulk of this substrate. The mud substrates are useless once you've used them. So it's wonderful for the garden. So I'll just go and tip that out in the garden, because that'll be some nice high nutrient fertilizer for my garden. So next I'm just going to go and siphon out what's left. You can be surprised how easy the mud substrate siphons out. Like if that was gravel, it would obviously clog up very quickly. But with these mud substrates, they almost liquefy and you can almost suck it out. Just like a big chocolate milkshake. It's quite sort of rewarding to do. It's sort of surprisingly fun. You do want to try and pay attention to the bucket because you'll never find that you're that popular if you are so busy sucking all the mud out of the tank that it's very easy to overflow your bucket and having mud all through the bottom of your floor, particularly if you've got carpet. Sort of not the most fun you'll have. You won't be heaps popular if you did that. So I'm a big believer in changing your tank because I basically find that your average person sets a tank up. At the start, they absolutely love it. Then after about a year, they like it. And then after about a year, they've seen it. Now, it just depends on your personality. So if you're the sort of person that just gets something and loves it forever, then cool. But a lot of people do find that if they're not doing something new to the aquarium every couple of years, it does make it a little bit of a phase. So sort of change is king because you set your tank up and after a while you've seen it. So sometimes just getting a new, just sort of redoing it, sometimes is the best thing to do because you do get bored with it after a while. So it probably does tell you a little bit about yourself too. Depends how many you might be on. Fish tank number 7, maybe you're on wife number 3. But change is king, definitely as far as fish are concerned. So now I'm just giving the glass a bit of a clean up. You can see I'm very fast at it. Very relaxing doing this. Now I'm just popping a little bit more water in the tank just to help me siphon out those last bits of mud that I've missed. Just let it settle on the bottom. Just give it another bit of a sucky suck. And there's always something exciting about doing this too, because when you've had the same tank for a while, the whole prospect of getting new fish and setting it all up, it's sort of like the honeymoon again. You know, it's sort of like it really gets you back interested again. I mean, some people when they buy fish, they feel like they owe it to those fish to have them for the rest of their life. But I don't really agree with that because I do find that the more you're into your fish, the more likely you are to look after them properly. So I think changing your fish, just trading them in back at the aquarium shop is the best thing to do. Or you could put them online. But if you just bring them back to the aquarium shop, tell them, hey, look, here's some fish, I want to go again, generally they'll be quite happy. But it's that easy and that quick just to revitalise your hobby.